What is up, everybody? Welcome to you all, writers, readers, story lovers. I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Merrick Humbert.
And I am Mariana Davila.
And we are your hosts. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Mariana, what is so exciting about today?
Well, along with the beautiful story that we're going to be sharing on this episode, later tonight, if you're listening to this on the day it is released, our 13 Playground Challenge begins.
Woo, woo, woo!
I can't wait to see what you all do with the prompts that we came up with, and we're really looking forward to reading your stories.
Most definitely. Registration will close at 2 p.m. New York Eastern Time, and again, that is if you're listening to it on the day that this is released. And then we will send out the commencement email, and the competition will begin at 8 p.m. I'm pumped.
Me too. I'm looking forward to reading these submissions. We hope to see you all there. But what else has been going on since our last episode, Merrick?
Well, I finished and posted my 70s list. This is a bit of a passion project for me. I've been going through the decades, rewatching some of my favorite films, watching some for the first time, recommendations and movies I've seen on other lists. Then I'm coming up with my favorites from each decade and writing just a little bit about each film. So I just finished my list for 20 of the best, in my opinion, from the 70s. And if you're interested, you can read that on the blog on our website, Raconteur and Bard. And I just have so much fun doing these. And I started the list with the 30s, made my way forward. So next up is the 80s. So whenever I get the time, I will be enjoying myself some 80s movies for a while. So I come up with my next list. What about you, my lady?
I've enjoyed watching some of these with you and seeing your recommendations. You have been more into the classics than me always, and we definitely have a different taste, but we also agree on a lot, and it's fun talking about them.
For sure.
I also just finished a memoir that I thought was really compelling. It's called Things in Nature Merely Grow by Ji-Jun Lee, and if you're interested in looking for it, the spelling of her name is Yiyunli. And the book is about the suicide of her second child. His name was James. She experienced this tragic loss a few years after losing her first child, also to suicide. I found her sharing of these harrowing experiences heartbreaking and very beautifully written. And since my mom's passing, I've been reading a lot of memoirs about grief, but I had found none of them compelling until I stumbled upon this one. And reading it was both painful for me, but also in a strange way like a salve. I found it movingly honest and could really relate to her pain. I highlighted entire paragraphs of the book. And it is funny because there is a certain restraint in her writing, and yet she managed to portray in a very touching and honest way what the death of her two sons have been for her and how she has come to learn to live again in this new reality without them. At the same time, I also thought the memoir was a beautiful way to honor her son, and I quite recommend it.
That definitely sounds interesting. Heavy for sure, but yeah, interesting. Shall we get into our story for today?
Let's do it.
All right. Today we will be reading a really lovely story called Caballito by Kelsey Goforth, in which the protagonist, Alma, is forced to confront the meaning of life when she encounters a mysterious bird. And Caballito won 8th place out of 716 entries in our 10th Playground Challenge. And it's a terrific story.
That's right. And Kelsey Goforth is a talented writer from Toronto, Canada. And you can follow her on Instagram at kgoforth1. And that will be in the description wherever you're listening to this. So make sure to follow her there.
Here is Caballito. Enjoy.
Caballito by Kelsey Goforth. I waited for him every day for a decade. Overwhelming tiredness overtook many of my afternoons, but without fail, I perked up at the right moment. When the light-headed days of exhaustion set in, something that was regrettably becoming more frequent, I imagined microscopic men holding up each eyelid, as though they were barbels above their heads. Our brown brick home along Parque Centenario was a short walk from the city's Natural History Museum, and I timed with precision when I could expect his footsteps on the front stoop each day, This was my special talent. Noah's greeting was always the same. Alma, what a day I have had. We went to the kitchen and he poured wine, never straying from his favorite, a Mendozan Malbec whose plum and leather he wafted while siding out the day's stresses. Standing side by side in the kitchen, he chopped red and green peppers and carefully arranged slices of steak into a shallow bowl of marinade. The scent of freshly ground peppercorns tickled my nose. Classical music danced around the house after dinner as he read biographies in his armchair. I was always nearby. He grew up in Buenos Aires, just a few blocks from here, in a small home with burnt orange shutters and cheap paint on the doorframe. There was a well in the yard, and he would imagine the frogs living at the bottom of it, out of reach, but real just the same. His mother was his salve, curing every fathomable sadness and protecting against all possible harms. Earthy burgundy collected under her fingernails as she peeled beets, her apron stained and her hips encircled by a toddler's tiny arms, Noah's head leaning into her side. He told me about all the years he lived before I came into his life, how he loved animals as a young schoolboy, and how he came to work with them in adulthood. I listened serenely with my head in his hands, smiling in the only way I knew how, at the tales of all that came before me, all that shaped him into the man he is today. Even if I wanted to, I could never share the same details with him. I just appeared one day, plucked from somewhere and put in this place. Any memories of where I came from evaporated almost instantly, like ice cubes disappearing on a summer day. He was introverted and a homebody, content with books and newspapers, but hesitant to actually experience the world he read so much about. But that was okay with me, as it meant more time spent together. Aside from leaving to go to work, his only consistent outings were to Recoleta on Sundays to place yellow lilies on his mother's tomb, and monthly visits to the ecological reserve across town. He would return at twilight to tell me how his conservationist colleagues at the museum would be envious that he had seen a new nest of black-necked swan cygnets camouflaged in the pampas grass of the riverbank. I was being swallowed whole by quicksand, his strength pulling me underneath the floorboards. I was falling, but not fast, and I felt the oddest sense of peace and comfort, as though swaddled and safe in a giant cradle. My eyes threw open like dawn curtains and focused in on the corner's dust bunny collection. Despite the odd dream, it felt like I had woken up from the deepest, most tranquil sleep I'd ever had. Something, however, had changed. Upon jumping into bed, Noah remained still, his eyes fixed on the stucco ceiling. His energy was low, his eyes heavy. I licked my speckled café au lait belly, first sticking like Velcro to my tongue. Later that morning, he walked by me as I sat on the kitchen counter. I knew I shouldn't have been up there as I had been scolded before, but at least this would get his attention. His distant eyes didn't react. The day of confusion continued. I had so much I wanted to ask him and no way to do it. My questions were answered a few days later, on a rainy autumn afternoon when his familiar footsteps brought with them a pain I could have never expected. His hands were full when he came to the front door. I heard him struggle to find the right key on the crowded ring. He entered holding a small red cooler and struggled to close his drooping umbrella. A trill rang out behind him and a small brown bird fluttered through the doorway to the right of his shoulder. I had watched warbling creatures like these through the windows and on television screens, but to see one this close was foreign, like the first time I'd heard the bizarre buzz of a cicada. The bird moved erratically, its wings almost colliding with the light fixture, its beak grazing the bookshelf's sharp edge. The corner of my eyes strained as they tried to take in the chaos that surrounded me. Why was Noah okay with this imposter following him inside? Why wasn't he doing anything to stop this wild beast from destroying our home? Noah kicked off his brown leather Oxfords and made his way to his office at the back of the house, the bird shadowing him. I reluctantly tiptoed toward the open door. What emerged in the horrific moments that followed stopped me from moving any further. The grating sharpness of something serrated, crepitus, and scraping of metal on something hard and hollow. I woke up in the corner, my muscles tense and tight, my stomach tangled in knots like a ball of yarn. I could still hear Noah in the office, and once again left the pillow's comfort to try to figure out what was happening. Peeking around the doorway, I saw the carnage. A mess of wire and foam bits were splayed from one side to the other of his cluttered desk. Downy feathers hung suspended like fireplace sashes. Amid the chaos, I thought I saw red flesh, taut elastic strips over a small form. I thought I saw bone. The bird fluttered past me and landed on the lampshade next to Noah's reading chair. "Who are you?" I asked. My mind was racing and my fur stood up straight, electric with uncertainty. It looked at me in silence, opened its mouth briefly, and then pressed its beak closed. "What's your name?" My quivering voice was louder this time, demanding an answer. "Well, I've never really had a name before." It nodded towards the office. "That guy keeps calling me the Rufous Horneros specimen. I don't know what that means, but I guess it's my name now." "That guy? That guy is Noah, and this is our home. I don't know who you think you are, but you shouldn't be here." The bird puffed out a breath, deflated. "I'd happily go, but the problem is, something is stopping me from leaving." It explained how it was trapped here, and how each time Noah opened the door, it would try to flee, only to be sucked back inside by some mysterious force. After several attempts at escape, it had had a realization. I used to fly over Recoleta, and I'd see the humans. Rain would fall from their eyes, and they'd be hugging each other. They carried big wooden boxes through the little doors of the tombs. I listened with curiosity. The bird had seen so much of the world. I had seen nothing at all. Its face scrunched as it remembered more. One time, a young woman had this big, framed photo of a man's face. His hair was gray, and he had an itchy-looking mustache like some pale caterpillar resting above his mouth. She carried the photo with her as she walked with other humans towards the tomb. She put it on a stand next to its entrance. After an hour or so, all the people left and the woman took the photo with her. But for that hour, I sat in a tree staring at the photo and studying the face. His eyes were kind, and he reminded me of the type of man who'd bring seeds to the park and toss it softly towards me. He looked like the type of man who always smiled. The bird stopped. I took a breath. Several weeks later, I was back at Recoleta, and it was the oddest thing. The woman was back too, and she was sitting on a bench near the tomb of the kind-eyed man. She was looking straight ahead and was reading deeply, her eyes collecting a puddle of rain in the narrow bottom rims. A dog's bark distracted me for just a second, and when I returned my glance, I saw him. The kind-eyed man had returned and was sitting on the bench with her. She continued to look ahead, blinking so many times. She looked to the sky as the rain from her eyes started to slide down her face. The man put his big hand on her shoulder and rested his nose to her temple. She didn't move at all. It was like she didn't know he was there. The bird sighed out a pause and continued. The woman got up to leave, and the man walked with her, his hands clasped behind his back, his head bowed. When they reached the cemetery gates, he paused suddenly and watched her continue on. "I think I'm stuck here just as the man is stuck at the cemetery. We both need to stay close to our bones." I couldn't escape the bird's words. They were beach waves pulling me in and turning in circles around me over and over again. Like gravity, some invisible string kept whatever the man is now connected to what he once was. Now, the bird felt as though a strange power was keeping it here too. We need to stay close to our bones. My eyes widened. The bedlam of the other day was beginning to make sense. I made my way to Noah's office. Replacing the mayhem and disorder was a neat workplace, clear of all the carnage. Scanning the room, my pupils dilated and swept their focus along each detail. The green glass lamp, a spiky aloe vera plant, a photo of him and his mother. Conveyor belt-like, my eyes continue in their linear motion across the room and its surfaces, until one detail made me throw everything into reverse, my neck whiplashing to the right. There it was. In this form, it was more beautiful than I had ever seen. Its sepia-hued features were striking in the afternoon sun. Seeing it perch in stillness beneath its bell jar brought wetness to my eyes and grabbed my heart in elastic bands. I woke up with a fire roaring within me. Despite confirming the bird's story, my throat was tied with anger. None of what was happening explained Noah's behavior towards me. None of it explained why he seemed so far away, or rather why I seemed so far from him. With his brown decay, the underside of an apple drew flies to the ceramic fruit bowl. I swatted at them, trying to prevent the collection from multiplying. The bird joined me, its tongue peeked out from its beak, grabbing at the tiny bugs and slurping them back. I know we don't need to eat anymore, but catching these things is still quite fun, it said. Huh? Of course we need to eat. It laughed as it flapped its wings, levitating to grab at an escaping fly. Okay, buddy, whatever you say. Call me crazy, but I thought the one advantage of being dead is not having to worry about keeping a functional body anymore. But suit yourself. I froze. A fly squirmed in my paw, its wings impaled by my claw. The bird paused, noticing my changed expression. Alma, I'm sorry. I thought you knew. The bird's eyes widened, its face wrinkling as it watched the pain radiate across my face. Why do you think Noah is acting the way he is? He can't see you anymore. I'm not even sure he knows you're here. What are you talking about? I'm not like you. I'm not dead. I'm not stuffed and perched under glass. My stomach was an acid-sick tempest. My tail puffed out like a skunk's. You're right. You aren't stuffed and displayed like I am. I don't know exactly where you are, but just like the man entombed at the cemetery, I'm sure you must be somewhere close. I was still melancholy blue as winter became spring. My morning was a complicated fog. I could see through it and could watch Noah and our home the same way I always had. I could see him making omelettes, the rain clouds filling the sky, a spider rappelling off a wooden crate as it crafted a new web. I could feel love. I could feel loneliness, something that had been familiar to me each day when he was at work. But that isolation was no longer remedied by the opening of the front door. He didn't tell me stories about his day. He didn't even know I was here. This sadness was intensified by the mystery that remained. Why was I still here? The bird's remains were beautifully displayed, and after a thorough search, I knew with certainty that mine were not. As time passed, I learned more about the bird's adventures and the journeys it had been on. It had seen so much and was able to watch the behavior of many different people. It listened to live music on outdoor patios, while I had only heard guitars and pianos on records or from computer speakers. It had heard people speaking in all sorts of languages, while Noah spoke to me in only one. Every day of the bird's life was new and exciting, while mine was marked by consistency and routine. This sheltered life, contained by walls and doors and closed windows, began to feel small to me. What had I done with my life? Had I even lived at all if I hadn't felt the mist of a waterfall or heard arias fluttering like melodic butterflies out of the Teatro Colón? Had I really known the world if I'd never seen the ocean? The questions fettered me, wrapping themselves around me like a constricting snake, immobilizing me from thinking of anything else. What makes a life well lived? I asked nervously. What do you mean? The bird replied. I haven't done anything, I confessed. All I do is stay in this house. There is so much I haven't seen, or felt, or heard. The bird shook its head, its neck a metronome as it looked down. It lifted back up after a moment and smiled. But you have felt. You felt love and belonging from Noah. And you too were home to someone else. There is no greater thing than that. Many times, Noah returned from Recoleta with red and puffy eyes. When he held me after those visits, I could feel his heartbeat thumping quickly through his shirt. As we lay together on the couch, my body somersaulted on his chest. I could feel his breathing relax and his heart return to its normal pattern. I remember all this now. As I look at all the relics of our life together, I remembered what it was like to be a companion and to feel companionship reciprocated. I saw the corner where he would put a Christmas tree each year, under which I would lay for hours as he missed his mother during that heightened season of grief. I saw the kitchen table where he watched the news and his constant stream of greed and war and pain. A levee broke within me and the recollection surged. I thought of the hard days he had had and the frustrations of missed bosses and workplace politics. I felt his heaviness in those moments and I vowed to help hold it with him. For a decade, I had experienced all this with him as a comfort and confidant. Brightness and darkness coexist in life in mostly distinct ways, but at times they blend together into something bittersweet. It is the tender pain of a sunburn after the greatest day at the beach. I feel that today as part of my story ends, while Noah's typewriter clicks away without me. But my job remains the same as it has always been, to watch him and love him just as I always have. I let go of my need for answers. Unlike the bird, I may never know what keeps me here. I may never see my own body, rigid, caught on patting the hollowness, beaded glass eyes following me around the room. I may never have a tangible connection to the old me, but to have any semblance of contentment, I must let go of yearning to stay the old me. I heard Noah wake up and I trotted up the stairs. Things are different now. I know I will never feel Noah's touch again, but I wonder if he can feel mine in any way at all. I watch him steal from the window, webbed often now with spiders' silky leavings. With grayer hair and a more rigid gait, he still climbs the steps at the same time each afternoon, having walked along the park's cobblestone trails covered in fallen narrow leaves the length of banana peels. Often when I wait for him now, the sun reflects off a small gold plate on a box on the fireplace mantel. When the sun is hammocked in the sky at just the right place, the gold plate's glint ricochets into my eyes, notifying me at that perfect moment. The box on the mantel is the same one he touches each evening after returning from work. With 2 gentle taps, he says to it, "Alma, what a day I've had."
That was Caballito by Kelsey Goforth. And oh man, I love that ending so much.
Oh, me too.
How he comes home, pats the box on the mantle, and says, "Alma, what a day I've had." What he had said to her every day when he came home, and how we come to the understanding in that moment that that was her urn.
You really see how much he loved her, and it beautifully captures in that moment the beautiful relationship that people can have with their pets, how important they are to us. It is a very special thing.
Indeed. And specifically in this case, it's clear how much Alma meant to Noah and how much he meant to her. It's a pretty perfect ending, I think.
I agree. And I love how this story opens as well, how we begin to learn about Noah from Alma's perspective, how we get some specific details about their life together and their routine, and how we slowly come to the understanding that Alma is a cat.
Yeah, I really like that isn't immediately obvious, but how it becomes more clear as the story moves forward. I thought that was very well crafted.
And also how we slowly come to the understanding that Alma is dead after she meets the bird.
Yeah, I love the short section. It reads, "I was being swallowed whole by quicksand, its strength pulling me underneath the floorboards. I was falling, but not fast, and I felt the oddest sense of peace and comfort, as though swaddled and safe in a giant cradle." And at first, it's unclear what's happening there exactly.
She refers to it as an odd dream.
Exactly. So that's what you think it is at first, an odd dream, until we come to the realization that she has actually died. But reading this passage again, after coming to that understanding, realizing that this was her dying, it adds more clarity to it and makes me like the passage even more. I think it's great.
She does a great job creating a sense of mystery about what is going on until everything becomes clear a little later in the story. And I love the interaction Alma has with the bird. I thought that was a smart way to bring these things to light through character interactions. And I love the story the bird tells her about how it watched the humans at the cemetery and how it figured out that ghosts had to stay close to their remains and how it takes Alma a while to come to the understanding that she is dead as well. It was all very cool and creative.
Yeah, and very well executed. And I also love how this causes Alma to consider her own life. How the bird being able to see more of the world makes Alma say, all I do is stay in this house. There's so much I haven't seen or felt or heard. And how that leads her to ask, what makes a life well lived? And I think that is such a crucial question to the human experience. It's something that we all have to contend with, something philosophers have been asking and debating and writing books about since forever. It's definitely thought-provoking, and there can be all kinds of complexity to it. But I do think if you simplify it as much as possible, get rid of all the complexity and bring it down to one thing, I think that one thing would be love. Love is what makes a life well lived and a life worth living.
Yeah.
Barf.
Come on.
But just kidding. But like I said, there's definitely more complexity to it. That's being a little reductive, but it is a profound question. It's a question of existence, and it just is really, really interesting to consider. What does make a life well lived, Mariana?
Cheeseburgers.
Sausage, egg, and cheese, everything bagels.
Mm-hmm. Good books.
Accomplishing your goals.
Laughter.
A movie theater with a big bucket of popcorn, some Skittles, and a soda.
Chilaquiles from Leslie's Kitchen.
Yeah. And the list goes on.
But to get back to the story, I love how after we see Alma questioning whether her life was well lived, having never left the house, how the bird tells her, but you have felt. You felt love and belonging from Noah, and you too were home to someone else. There is no greater thing than that. It is a beautiful message.
Yeah. And I love how after the bird says that, we get some specific memories from Mama's life with Noah, how she remembers their companionship, how she was there for him in the hard times, which is such an important part, maybe the most important part of loving someone, being there for them in the hard times.
Yeah, it is a fantastic story. And I also want to add that I thought the writing was beautiful. I like all the descriptions she used and how it's very visual, but at the same, it has like a lyrical tone to it.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
Well, all right. As for the prompts, Kelsey chose a taxidermist for the character. We know he works at the museum, and we see the bird ends up getting stuffed. For the setting, she chose Argentina. Another option for this challenge was a cemetery, which she used for a small part as well. And the one thing that everyone had to include in this challenge was a well. And we see it in the beginning as she mentions that there was a well in the yard of the home that Noah grew up in. So that is where that was included.
Yep. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to follow Kelsey on her Instagram at KGoforth1. And we will be back for another episode in 2 weeks.
And don't forget, our 13th challenge starts tonight. So good luck, writers. We can't wait to see what you all come up with.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great one.
See you.